Okay, let's see. It's around 9 o'clock. Hopefully this time is right because I came on here earlier and I was like, where is everyone? Just like how I am right now. And I realized that I had a different time. Okay. Hey, Tyler. Thank you for making me feel like I'm not alone on a desert island called Hawaii. Okay, let's see where we're going. Okay, don't put that pressure on me, Old Navy. I don't know if I could wow you folks. I'm hoping not to suck terribly. Kind of nervous. This is my first time, and there's a reason why I haven't gone live stream. It's because there's no taking back what you say, or like all the mistakes you make. So I think I'm gonna wait a little while because people always tend to come in a little late. Oh, my hair. My mom, just as she was leaving, because they were gonna give me some time away. They're going some time away, so they left the house. Just before she left, she's like, you should do something with your hair. And I was like, well, I went to the salon, this past week. She's like, well, it doesn't look like it. And now that I'm looking at my hair, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I will do something a little bit before it starts getting really crazy. So on the post and immediately clicked spoof goose. Some yuck. I stayed up all in the quickie do so that my straw basket doesn't really show. Lydia, hey! And Pretty, hey back. Okay, so this is, this is my first live stream. I am a little nervous. Because as I was saying, you can't take back what you say. I can't, if I stumble, I stumble. And if no one asks me questions, then I'm in awkward pauses. But I have kind of prepared. I do have some updates, some travel updates and some life updates. And I'm going to answer some questions from you guys, as well as kind of share how I go about my last minute trips, because it seems like I take a lot of them. It's just always been a lot of last minute trips. Thank you, Jay. I can give you a bear hug. You're always so supportive. Okay, so it's around 9:06. This is Hawaii time. I don't know where you folks are coming from, but I put it out for 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I feel like that's kind of a good round figure for a lot of the, I know a lot of the American population, and some of the Asian population as well. Okay. Hey, Alyssa. Did I pronounce that right? Alyssa? Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming in. Okay. So first of all, thanks for joining me on this live stream. I do want to say, for those people who have watched the 360 video, thank you for your positive feedback, because I was a little worried. With that camera, sometimes the quality of the 360 video can be a little rough, or it can be a little blotchy at times, especially if you have low connection, like a low speed connection for your internet. And yeah, I've seen that video play back well, and I've seen it play back very badly. So hopefully it was a positive experience for a lot of you. I did have my doubts at times. But I kind of enjoyed a little bit of that 360 feeling where you can come in with me, like things like, traveling with me on the bus, right? I mean, I've always myself as a traveler always wondered what the inside of buses look like. Well, buses around the world, because I know that I'm going to have to travel that way. And so just the idea of seeing the inside of it, being able to pan around I thought was kind of fun. So every once in a while, I think I'll pause just because you folks are chatting. What do I do as a living? Many things as a living, other than YouTube. Well, that's what I'm going to roll into, sort of. Okay, so I do feel like I've fallen off of social media for a little bit, and maybe it doesn't feel like that way to you, but I just know that I'm not doing it every day. And at the start of the year, I had this game plan, because last year I made like maybe around half my income off of YouTube, not YouTube, no, off of Girl Traveler, like the blog, the YouTube channel, Patreon, and whatever opportunities I could field or create, affiliate sales, everything. But it still wasn't enough because I live in the United States and the cost of living here is really, really high. Also, being a freelancer as a content creator, being a freelancer in Hawaii, I'm actually paying 3 taxes, and that's a state, a federal, and a Hawaii like contractors tax. So that was just something that I was like, oh my God, this is just overwhelming. And so I really wanted to develop a game plan for this year. And I know I put a shout out and a poll for you guys to, like feeling out whether or not you folks might be interested in taking small group tours with me. I was starting to write some ebooks that I thought would be really positive to put out there. And a lot of other things. But along the way, I had to think about the business aspect of it. It was just like all business for the first 4 months. It was just like, how do I figure out how to LLC? Because I have to start turning Girl Traveler into more of a business. Referred me to different people, and I've just been bouncing around and going onto forums. And it's just been a lot of work in the process, I think, as well as engineering things like, a group tour, and I was starting to do that. I was working with someone to plan that out because obviously, if something happens with one of my attendees, someone gets sick, someone gets into an accident, that could be liability for me. So there's like all these different measures of all these goals and dreams that I had to engineer themselves some way. And I was going through a lot of the engineering process. And all that takes a lot of energy from me because I'm not like a business person at all. I'm like a creator. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But it's just, the business part just boggles me. And when I have to focus on that, it just sucks all my energy from me. Yes, you want to travel with me, Lydia. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted. This is, okay. So that was one thing. A lot of opportunities also were coming in for travel, for like acting, for, even hosting. And everyone doesn't really know what they're gonna do. Like for some reason in my world of entertainment, in travel, and everything connected to my life, people don't know their schedule until they know it. And so they would say, well, are you available from this time to this time? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm available. Are you available from this time to this time? And everyone started like pocketing my time. And I was like, in my brain, I know to keep a loose plan because things fall through. Well, by April, a lot of things fell through. It's kind of slowly started dropping off, like rotten fruit or something. Meanwhile, the freelance part of my life started picking up, and that was good because I love freelancing. I am a videographer here in Hawaii, like a freelance videographer. And so sometimes when people have events, I'll film that, and I enjoy that because that's a different way for me to travel. Like one event that I went out to, well, there's a lot of events where it's just kind of like very exclusive, and I'll get to see that part of a lifestyle, from a fashion show to a lot of different things. So I always feel excited about that. And, it pays me pretty decently, but unfortunately it doesn't happen regularly enough. So that's where I have a part-time job, which helps me with health insurance. So, like all these things is how I diversify my life. It's a lot to juggle a lot of times. And I think a lot of content creators are in that realm of they have to make their life work outside of their content creation, because we're all trying to do what we love for a living, which is like YouTube, blogging, travel blogging. We're all trying to make that happen. But at the same time, while that's slowly evolving, we have to find ways to, really support ourselves. So, I mean, I'm looking for Girl Traveler to become more of my job. I mean, it really is my job right now, full time. and more than full-time, but I need her to pick up she needs to pay for herself a little bit more and become more sustainable, so that I can feel comfortable investing my everything into it. I mean, I do already, but it's just a matter of, well, I'm splitting my time off in different places. I mean, these past 2 weeks were really crazy because I was double shifting, and I'll take anything from, any kind of gig work along the way, because I like flexibility with my time, and that helps me, or it allows me to travel. It allows me to make these last minute trips, is when I have flexible jobs, like a part-time job where the employer's okay with me taking time off if I can find people to fill my spot. If I have freelance work where it's only like a couple of days or even like a nice chunk of a week, and stuff like that. But this week was just, these past 2 weeks were a killer because I was double shifting like 2 different jobs. And so I would get off of work at one job, then I'd go to the other job. And then like at 10 o'clock at night, I'd come back home and then I'd start like editing my videos. And by the morning, I had probably maybe around 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And then the day would start all over again. But that's kind of like the full cycle of my work. So when I drop off of social media, it's just that a lot's going on and I don't even know how to process it at times. Or, the last thing you feel like doing is broadcasting it to the world, because there are some of these things that aren't so exciting to you folks. And I'm aware a lot of people want to see me travel. And that's a pressure for me too, is how do you afford travel when it is expensive? Like a lot of you will say you probably aren't traveling because of money, right? And that's the same thing with me, is I have to budget myself too, because I'm getting work or I'm like scrambling for work in different places, as well as my blog. And I have to find opportunities or create opportunities for my blog to grow. And I created like a world around it. And now I sort of feel pressure at times to feed that world. Like what happens when I don't travel? Well, then the channel kind of like goes soggy or that kind of stuff. So that's where working with sponsors, working with press trips, being resourceful about, like growing my brand so that people want to work with me more, that helps afford travel, and it helps me a little bit more in terms of my own finances. So it's like this weird kind of wonky, fast-moving cycle. But with content creation, I guess I feel guilty when I stop, like when I don't post something for a week or when I don't post something for like 3 or 4 or 5 days, just because with content creation, it's a constant thing where you have to constantly put out new exciting things for you folks. Let me read. Will I meet you in Hanoi, Mark? Oh no, Lydia. Will you meet me in Hanoi, Lydia? Oh, you guys are like connecting. Good thing. Okay. This could be like an eHarmony place. Just kidding. What would your next destination be, Pranava? Let me get to that right now. Okay, so yeah, the reason why I've fallen off was just I've been overwhelmed by all this busyness or business of blogging. And you just can't get away from it. It's just, like I said, it's this constant kind of wheel that you have to fuel. So when my traffic is low, then I have to try and figure out ways to boost my traffic, like maybe bring on more guest posts or guest writers so that I get new energy in there or new destinations. I have to rewrite some written posts so that Google will pick them up better. It's like all this technical stuff that's just not very exciting, but it fills our world. You would not believe how many forums there are where bloggers are just like furiously like, okay, what do I do? My traffic is dropping, blah, blah, blah. YouTube, well, what happens if, sponsor comes back to you and, doesn't want to pay anything, but they want you to do all this kind of work, and for every problem, there's kind of like forums, and I belong in like a wealthy handful of them. So when I'm also not here on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, I'm on some of those forums troubleshooting stuff and trying to figure out the business and of how to continue this girl traveler brand. Okay, so my major concern about traveling abroad solo is currency exchange. How do you figure out the math in comparing how expensive stuffs are and managing so as I stay on my travel budget? Okay, yeah, how do I manage my travel budget? Okay, I'm not sure about currency exchange. I usually just go to the ATM. Sorry, it's when I first arrive at an airport, I go straight to the ATM, as well as I try to find the SIM dealerships. Go to the ATM, withdraw money because I need money immediately for things like taxis or the metro. And from there, I feel like it's a safe place. A lot of travelers are there. There's less people that are wanting to, I don't know, less sketchy people around. Yeah. Nelson Rodriguez, thank you. $5. Thank you very much, Nelson. Is this your first time here? I've not seen you chat or leave comments. No, just a word about that. Actually, one of the best ways to get to know your favorite YouTuber is to comment a lot. I feel like there's a lot of names that I recognize, and it's because I see them commenting so much and they start developing their own personality with me. So I kind of already have an idea of who these people are, or I have an imagined idea of these people because they keep commenting and they're always, there. But back to budget. How do I determine budget? That's a hard one. Let me come back to that. Okay. Any plans on visiting Estonia? Oh my God, I would love to. I have a girlfriend that's in Germany, and there was a time that we were going to go to Estonia. That would be, yeah, such a small but so beautiful country. Everyone thinks it's part of Russia. We could show you around. Oh, I'd definitely take you up on that. Alisa, definitely. In fact, I'd love to visit you just because your area is just, I don't know. I think of like the Nordic countries as kind of like dreamscapes. And I'd love to get out there. Flight costs. If I'm not traveling to certain parts of the world, it's usually the cost of a flight or the euro, the dollar, like the and I gave you options. I narrowed it down. At first, it was like Japan, Mexico, and Thailand, Hawaii. And then a lot of people were just like, Japan and Mexico. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I got invited to Nepal again and visit the cenotes, which is like, for me, a bucket list. But I'm not really sure because a lot of people have been saying the whole, Mexico isn't safe thing. A lot of people have been telling me that. So it's kind of like, isn't it? I always feel like with safety, a lot of people ask me about, is India safe? Are all these places safe? And, I feel like because I practice safety everywhere I go, and I try my best to be street smart. I feel like I'm confident in that wherever I go, I will be practicing these things. And I think that's it. And reading a lot of articles about, sell you stories that are going to be shocking enough to make you want to click. And so there's an ounce of truth to that, but I feel like there's also a big hype around it too, because, whenever you shine the spotlight on one thing, it's like the spotlight is on that thing and that's all you see. So whatever you focus on it, like, oh, I have a pimple, then all of a sudden people are going to start looking at my pimple, and that's how media operates and that's how people operate. It's like, oh, look at that pimple. I didn't notice that there, but now that spotlight has a flaw in it. So, okay, basically I put out the poll and you guys responded, or some of you guys responded on Instagram. I put out that poll and that's the result I got. So next week, Thursday, I think, I will be flying off to Nepal. And taking my third trip there, and filming more stuff. So if I have any Nepali followers out there, please share with me some of the best places to eat, like must-try foods that are out there. Anything unique also. Unique but culturally interesting for travelers, for foreign travelers, you know. Yeah, no parks or anything like that. I mean, something, I only say that because sometimes I do these best things to do videos, and sometimes, like, I know for one of my videos, Kolkata, people were just like, why don't I go to the park? I was just like, well, for some people that's really interesting, unless it's a theme park or whatnot. If it's just a garden, I'm not into that. But please, hey Mara, thanks for making it out. Made final dates. Oh, you're going to India already? Oh wow, I'm so excited for you. Let's see. Michael Martin came to me and I was telling her that I was thinking of planning, going to Mexico. And she was just like, oh, I would never travel there without my family or with a tour. I'm like, really? But you're from there. She's like, yes, and it's very unsafe. I was like, well, what about Mexico City? Can I take the subway around? And she's like, oh, that's the worst place for crime. I was just like, I was already planning my itinerary for that city. So I had to reach out to Raphael. And I was like, well, is this true? And he's like, you'll be okay. At the same time, being a girl, I think to myself, well, he's Mexican and he's a guy and he looks pretty intimidating. So maybe he would be okay. But yeah, you do have to research where the rough spots are, the unsafe parts are, as well as the places that are kind of safe and fairly touristy. I would never really fall off the beaten path, just especially as a female single traveler. So for those of you who are asking about safety, yeah, it's the measure of taking precaution, being as safe as you possibly can, or being streets with a certain grain of salt, checking out, your travel.state.gov or your government, how they feel about the area, and taking everything into perspective, even asking friends or fellow travelers. A lot of fellow travelers, when we're out there, because you're already there, when you experience it, it doesn't feel unsafe. It's more or less the idea of when you're looking into a country that you've never been to before, it feels unsafe because it's so unfamiliar and so foreign. So baby steps, but never go outside of your comfort zone. I mean, no, not never. Definitely go outside of your comfort zone. But if you don't feel comfortable, then pull off. You can base your travel through Mexico on the travel warnings from the government. They only cover like a fifth of Mexico. Yeah, that's true. They don't cover that much because I researched it. Okay, so yeah, I'll be traveling to Mexico. My Nepali travelers or my Nepali friends out there, please give me recommendations. For all you other travelers, if you're interested in traveling to Nepal, let me know what you would love to see, because I would love to film it. So yeah, I'll be flying off next week. I only learned about my itinerary yesterday. Because destination boards sometimes like to do these things last minute to you. And so for a while they were like juggling my my flight plans, and I was just like, well, no, I don't want a 4-day layover. I don't want to be in transit for 4 days. So it's just kind of like this weird communication of trying to negotiate my my flight so that I wasn't terribly uncomfortable. But with Hawaii, you would not believe, like, just to get out to Nepal is like roughly about a 2-day in transit situation. This flight that I'm going to be taking, I am going to go from Hawaii all the way out to the west coast of Los Angeles so that I can fly all the way back to China and then to Nepal. It's crazy. But I am not paying for that ticket. So some of you who are asking about budget, that is one of the resources I use, is when I can work with these destination boards. I mean, basically, they're going to show me stuff that I'm going to want to travel and see anyways. And if I have time, in the past, what I used to do is I used to book, and I used to ask for like extra time around that so that I can go off and do my own travels. So I'd probably book about, the entire trip would roughly be about a month, is how I like to travel. Is if I'm gonna make the effort, pay the money, or someone's gonna fly me out to a certain place, I'm gonna make sure I milk it for all I can in terms of content and experiences. Let's see. How do I save my money when I go on my trips? When I go on my trips, or before I go on my trips? Before I go on my trips, I work a lot and I live very minimally. This sounds pathetic. I don't really go out with friends too much because in the United States, like going out is like maybe around $20 to $30 a pop, maybe even $40 to hang out with a friend. And so I kind of like try my best to save a lot. I work hard when I'm here. And then travel is when I kind of really let loose. Well, Leah, Leah or Leah? Sorry, I have difficulties with names sometimes, and I don't want to offend. Will I be doing a short trek in Nepal? I'm hoping so. The itinerary that I'm going on does not include trekking, so I'm gonna reach out to other places and do my research on what kind of trek I can do that creates that shows me the most epic landscapes for the smallest budget as humanly possible, or to see if I can negotiate a trade. Usually when I do these sponsorship things, I will let you guys know in advance. When I do work with a sponsor, and sometimes it's working in trade, like I will create a video and share it. Before I do any kind of work with the sponsor, I do my due diligence. I do due diligence. That sounds like a weird. I research them a lot, and I research the reviews to see what kind of experiences other travelers have had, because I don't want to partner with a sponsor or reach out to a sponsor that is not going to give a positive experience, because I know that I'm sharing it with you. I want to make sure that I can stand behind them, and that my fellow travelers out there aren't going to experience bad things. If I happen to go with a sponsor and I feel it's unsafe, or I don't like it, I'm pretty honest. I think you guys have seen some of my negative reviews. I don't want to say they're negative reviews, but they're not happy ones. And I will tell you, like my speedboat in the Phi Islands, that tour was sponsored, and I felt it was dangerous. Now, if you folks are interested in that, you still want to go ahead, then that's your kuleana. That's your thing. But I'm going to let you know in advance, and I'm also going to write my review and let you know what the pros and cons are, or what my experiences were. Rahul, try Leh Ladakh in India. Roads are open now. Do you know that was going to be my small group tour this year? It was. And the person I was trying to coordinate it with just fell through. He just dropped off the planet and never responded. It was going to be an epic trip, because Leh Ladakh is my dream destination, or I find it the most beautiful place on this planet at the moment. I'm sure that might be replaced by someone else, but I think it's just the scenery, the mountain peaks, the snow, the ice, the desert, everything combined in one, the striking colors. Oh, beautiful. Lukla, I didn't know. I want to. That was, I wanna take that. I want to visit that Lukla airport and head off to Everest. That's kind of like, but my trip isn't that. My trip is going to be a short one because I have to get back for work here. So unfortunately, this year's a little different. I'm actually getting health insurance, so I have to come back. My trips have to be they have to be timed. There are certain trips that I feel like I'm gonna, expand. It's just, I don't know what I'm saying. This is the beginning of the year. I have to go slow with my travels, and find pockets where I could easily jaunt off. And I can't travel for like a month anymore, although I think at some point I will again, but maybe closer to the end of the year. Okay. Let's see. Last minute travel tips. Okay, so a lot of times I book my trips last minute, and that's because I have a freelance life, right? And I want to see what kind of jobs roll in. I really do love my work in terms of freelance work. I don't take jobs that I don't like, and that's kind of like a luxury, I think. But it's, for me personally, I was never able to take jobs that I don't like, and that's because I kind of sabotage myself if I don't like the job. So I will kind of like unconsciously get myself fired. Well, no, I haven't gotten fired, but I will push myself to the point where I'm just like, I quit. So I really have to be thoughtful of the jobs I put out there that I take, because I don't want to be irresponsible about things, or, let a person down or let a company down for having believed in me or giving me an opportunity. So I kind of really always pick and choose my jobs. What was I saying? Last minute travel. Yeah. So one job flexibility. If some of you are wondering how you can ask your employers for time off, well, just be honest. Is just, you go to them and you say, well, everyone has a different situation, but I would just go to them and say, well, I'm planning this trip, or maybe even ask them when would be a good time for me to take my vacation. And if things aren't heavy in terms of workflow, they might be able to let you go, and at some points, I've also taken the gamble, like my part-time job, the one that I'm in right now. The owner's really flexible with me. If I can find other workers to take my shift, and that's great. It works out perfectly, because sometimes I have auditions that I may need to take at the last minute, or freelance work comes up at the last minute. It's been perfect in that sense. Also, travel comes up at the last minute. And I know in the past years, I've had this job for a while, actually. In the past years, I have taken like 3 months off, and it was the idea of, okay, I really want to take this trip. Can I handle being let go? And you just have to, is it worth it? What you want to do versus, your responsibilities. So in those situations, I did choose, and miraculously, that job was still available and open for me when I came back. And that helps me because it's a little more stable. I get out of my computer, which is nice. Being a blogger, I think a lot of us are in our cave, and that's just, whenever you have a content creator, they're always in their cave. We are traveling and stuff like that. Most of the time we're collecting content, and we come home, and that's when we do it. But the daily vloggers, they're completely different. They're like beasts of their own. I could never be a daily vlogger, and I have some mad respect for them, because they have to constantly fuel or pump out content. And that is just like an endless process. I only know how much work I put into it. And with daily vloggers, that's like superhuman almost. Either that, or you gotta hire assistants. Okay, so job flexibility is one thing. Mentality is another thing. For those of you who are having difficulty making a leap, the way I cheat the system, or I cheat my own mind or my fear, the way I psych myself out, is last minute trips. Is when you don't have time to think about something or to worry about it, and then with last minute trips, you just have like, oh, I gotta go right now. That's it. Is you only know the impulse, you only know the action and the direction. Whereas for me, if I were to plan my trip out longer, or like sit on a destination which I was uncertain of, then I'd be like, oh, is it safe? Is it not safe? Should I go? Is it too expensive? Then I get caught in this whole mental cycle of, if, and not making the leap. So the last minute trips help me because not only is it my lifestyle, where all of my things, all of my opportunities come in at the last minute, but it just helps me to propel myself into action without thinking too much about, the what ifs. When I have to propel myself like that, like this past month, I knew that I was gonna take a trip, and I had like these 3 destinations, and I had very limited time. I was just like jumping on the internet. I'm like, okay, what can I afford? Japan, Mexico, Nepal. Well, okay, Nepal didn't come up at that point. Japan, Mexico, what can I afford? Okay, let me research this really quickly. I'll check flights. What's the cheapest flight? I'll check out like cities that I think that I want to go to. I will quickly research blogs, best things to do, best things to eat, and see what kind of itinerary there is that I might be interested in filming. This is as a content creator. And then from there, I will decide on accommodations. Now, being a content creator is a little different because I'm not just finding a place to bed, but I'm also looking for something that's unique, that's interesting, that I can also share. So, but also afford. And it's also in an area that's very convenient, or in a close vicinity to subway or public transportation. So these are all things that because I have a short amount of time, I have to crunch and do. So it's kind of like an artist who has a deadline, and they're racing to meet the deadline. They can only think about meeting the deadline versus all the little roadblocks in between. And not only that, because everything has a shorter window of time, I feel like, oh my God, did I just lose my words? Everything has a shorter window of time. I'm focused more on engineering it. That's the big difference, is engineering it versus wondering about it. Okay, let's see. Oh, it's been 44 minutes already. I think that's a long time. So let me answer a few more questions and I'll be off. Also, I am kind of excited to share that I am going to be working with another sponsor that I'm very excited to share with you. It is a brand that I do firmly believe in, and you all use a lot. SanDisk is allowing me to review one of their products and test drive it, and yeah, I'll be working a little bit with them on a campaign. So I'm very excited about that one, because it took me a while to get to this point where larger sponsors kind of reach out to me, and good ones like that. It's also a hard process because I also have to negotiate things, and I'm not really good at that. So anyways, fingers crossed. Last questions. Do you ever feel lonely? Yes and no. I feel lonely when I think about it too much. When I start feeling sorry for myself, or when I see like friends maybe having fun together. I feel lonely when I'm at the airport and no one's there to pick me up. But immediately after that moment comes, I have to get from this airport to my hostel or my guest house or my hotel. And should I take a taxi? Should I do this? Should I do that? And the engineering part kicks in, the action part kicks in, and and then the loneliness kind of leaves. I think the more I travel alone, the more I find that I can find friends on the road. And so it's not as lonely. It's actually more of a social party for me because I get to meet people, because I know I don't have someone that I feel like, merging into a bubble with. I'm more outgoing. And that helps me also just in my own life, is I've become so much more outgoing about things because I have to be that way when I travel. And I wasn't always like that. I was a very shy person growing up. But travel just kind of like pushes me out of my shell because I have to, again, engineer my way around places. And the only way for me to do that alone is to ask questions, is to reach out to locals or other travelers. Okay, last question. Is there a place where you felt hostile vibes because you were visiting? Hostile vibes. No. But I can tell you that when I went to Turkey, a lot of people are just like, is Turkey safe and whatnot? When I went to Turkey, this was like in the height of ISIS. ISIS was on like CNN all the time. And my parents were afraid for me. I was a little worried. Again, I reached out to a different blogger who I knew had traveled to Istanbul. And he was like, oh, no, it's fine. Just stay on the tourist routes, And that's generally how it goes whenever you hear like news about unsafe places, is you stick to the tourist routes for the most part. And I spent, I would say, a good majority of my trip worrying about that. In my head, I was just like looking for people to be hostile to me because I was an American. And people, like the Turkish, they're very hospitable and friendly. And they're like, where are you from? And I would be like, Canada. And they would just shout this out, where are you from? Where are you from? It was just like, oh, why do you have to ask me that question? But towards the end, I realized, it wasn't Turkish people. It wasn't Turkey. It was just like a small removed part or in areas of Turkey that were relatively unsafe at the time. So I think that was the most hostile I've gotten to, I think, that I can remember, is when it was hostile in my head and in my imagination more than it was in actuality. And I think that a lot of us kind of feel that way, is the fear is bigger when you don't know about a place, but once you get to the place, you find that it's actually a lot safer than you think. Okay, so sorry, I went way longer than I thought I would, and thanks for hanging in with me. I love you guys. If you're new to my channel and you hung in this long, then please subscribe, like the video as well. And yeah, leave comments below if you guys have more questions, if there's videos you want me to do in the future, like tip videos, or you have recommendations for me when I go to Nepal, then please let me know, okay, in the comment section below. And I love you all. My patrons, I think maybe we might do, I want us to do maybe a Google Hangout or something like that, where we all kind of get to know each other a little bit more. I'm going to throw that out onto our group page and see what you guys think of it. Maybe I'll do something from Nepal. I'm not sure yet. Okay. So until then, travel safe, smart, and fun. I will see you all on the road. May the GRRR be with you. Okay.